on the actual event. So I just would like to thank you so much, Habiba Chafai, I think is the name, right? Thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited about this chat today. The topic is extremely interesting, and it's amazing that you've done a lot of research on it. And I think it's very topical. It's an old topic, but it's very topical still to this day, which is a bit sad, to be honest. So we thought it would be very interesting to discuss it with you, and to learn about your research and about your thoughts, and so that you can lay the groundwork for us, tell us why the socioeconomic barriers, perhaps, to the integration of, well, firstly, based on your own research, it's about the Dutch-Moroccan, but I'm sure that it applies to the different migrant communities in different European countries. So that you would let us know what are the specific barriers, what is the impact of the socioeconomic situation of migrant families in their integration and inclusion, whose responsibility it is to ensure the integration and inclusion of such communities into the host countries, and hopefully a way forward, and some suggestions, perhaps some recommendations on how can we actually get to a better inclusive society. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super excited for this. It's something I'm very interested in. So please take it away. Thank you. Yeah, you'll need to unmute. I think everybody was muted at the beginning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Razan, for your introduction, and I hope that we'll have like a fruitful discussion. Of course, especially if we have any feedbacks and questions and reactions from our audience. So I'm glad to join you today with this topic, and to make academic research available and accessible to a larger public. So this is also the purpose. So anyway, so the topic of today is part of a project which is about investigating the intergenerational transformations of within Dutch-Moroccan citizens from the perspective of women's narratives. So this is like just a framework of my work. And the general, let's say, or the general research question of this, of what we're going to speak about today. So the question is that I would like to explore here with you whether and how, religious and cultural differences impact, do they have like an influence? Do they really matter in the socioeconomic integration of Dutch-Moroccan citizens here in the Netherlands? So, and of course, to answer these questions, which is not an easy question, I've tried to do like a review of literature to see what has been written about the topic in different different disciplines and different topics, but also from about the Dutch-Moroccan people. So, and here I'm going to tackle 3 points. How Muslims in general and Dutch-Moroccan people in particular are represented in the public debate. And when I say public debate, I mean the media, the politics, the public opinions, also what is also shared in social media, but it's not here the point of my interest also. So it's just the public debate in general. The second point is how Dutch-Moroccan people are portrayed in the Dutch educational system and the job labor market. And then the third question that I would like to point to is to see how these issues relate, reflect, and shape the atmosphere at home. When I say at home, I mean the family relationships, the parenting problems, and all these little things that try to put like the three like the media or public debates, school and employment, and then the family, you know, what is going on in families also. And all what I'm going to come up with now are results of already carried out research. So, and of course, we can end up with some suggestions, as you said. So, why I want to explore this subject. So there are so many, of course, when you do some when you decide to do some research, you all the time have some reasons, and they could be professional, personal, etc. So, but here I'm going to be briefly just summarize 2 points of the problematic. So the first one, as you said in a while, the how it is like Islam and migration and integration are still hotly disputed issues in the media, in politics, in the public opinion in general, and as I said, in social media. So, and how also these issues are still spoken about in the Dutch context, because we were speaking about Dutch-Moroccan people whose ancestors, say parents and grandparents maybe, arrived to they were recruited, you know, as guest workers to the Netherlands in the 60s and 70s. And after more than half a century, we are still speaking about integration. So integration, also, it's a word that is used a lot, but what is integration? What do we mean by integration? So how, let's say, that the Dutch government define integration, and also how also Dutch-Moroccan people, how we want them also to explore what do they mean by integration. Because these terms are not really defined. They're just given, okay, integration, but what do you mean? Do you mean like if I am biking every day, taking my bicycle, am I like Dutch? Or maybe if I am having lunch or dinner, I'm sorry, dinner at 6 o'clock, am I being Dutch this way? You know, and so on and so forth. So what do we mean by integration? So anyway, so these issues, there have been so many also in the academia, so many research that that has been carried out about these topics. However, according to my readings and my, let's say, my observations, you know, I think that quantitative research has more space. When I say quantitative, it's like statistics and numbers, you know, we take them as numbers. So it has like more space, more, it's like more valued sometimes and more reliable, and we need more qualitative research. Otherwise, when I say qualitative research, I mean to listen to people's, you know, stories, to their experiences, their perspective, because this is how we learn. We learn from them and about them to be able to to discuss it from their perspective too. So, so this is the first point, and then I go to the second one. Is that the reality is that Dutch-Moroccan people suffer from prejudiced reputation with regard to their ethnic and religious background. So their loyalty, their identity, and sense of belonging are, you know, constantly questions. It is constantly put into the spotlight. So we all the time want to know, why do they feel, you know, not feel, not how do they feel, but how do they identify, and yeah, are they really Moroccan, or do they identify with the Dutch society more? So yeah, so more focused on this part. And sometimes, most of the time, problems are attributed to religious and cultural differences. And these differences are values that start at home. You know, it's like parents start, you know, we have all these values and upbringing, and sometimes parents are blamed, you know, for for whatever values or for whatever practices and upbringing values they give to their children. So now I would like to also, before starting to explain more or less a little bit each of these 3 points, I would like to invite my audience to reflect with me and rethink some of the questions I'm going to just speak about now. So how does it feel, to be spoken about in a negative way in a public debate? Okay, so when you hear all the time your ethnicity or your religion or whatever is represented in a negative way. So and to be responsible for educational decisions that were or that are made on your behalf. And here for the educational, I mean, it's something very complicated and very that maybe we need like another hour to explain. But it has to do with sometimes the structural inequalities that are in the way and that sometimes hinder children's opportunities in the future. So also, how does it feel to be discriminated when you're applying for a job? And sometimes you're also pointed out or singled out as having parents who are unfit to educate you or to raise you in a different, well, in a different society. So yeah, so these are questions that most people are, I'm inviting like more native and ethnic. So I even don't like to use all these terms, that seems to be, divisive and classifying people. But yeah, I'm inviting everybody to think about these questions. So uh, now we can start with how Muslims in general and Dutch Moroccan people are represented in the public debate. So according to research, Islam is negatively represented in the Western media. So this is like in general in the Western media. So many studies have come to this conclusion. We have books and studies. Edward Said, for example, have spoke about it a lot. So and how Muslims and Islam is sometimes, and most of the time, is represented as a threat, to liberal values, to the modern values. So yeah, what do we mean by liberal and modern values also? So nothing is defined. So it's just I think that, for example, if you take gender inequality or the claimed women oppression in Islam or intolerance to homosexuality. So these are subjects that most of the time are used to let's say, to raise more tensions between, let's say, people who adhere to Islam, people who don't adhere to Islam. So to Westerns and non-Westerns, to people from the East and the West, l'Orient and l'Occident, and so on and so forth. And all these terms, as I told you in a while, they are, in my point of view, the more we use them, the more we classify people. We put them into frameworks and boxes and right. So yeah. So I think that even the language that we use is also decisive, and divisive, and classifying people in this sense. So this is as far as Western media, and we cannot go into details. If we go to the Dutch media, so Muslim activities, and according to research again, Muslims activities are generally associated with criminality, with violence, with terrorism. I mean, studies that has been done about they take like works, newspapers, they analyze how TV also, they try to analyze how people and Dutch-Moroccan people and Muslims are represented in the Dutch in the Dutch media. So which spreads in this way anti-Islam feelings, plus also the rise of anti-immigration ideology within the right wing, for example, the right Dutch wing in the Netherlands. So it has been affirmed by a very recent study, but not in the Netherlands, but it's always in the Scandinavian countries, that that the right-wing populist discourse, is affecting the perceived discrimination as well as the normalization of it's normalizing the dehumanization of Muslims. So it's dehumanization of Muslims. So it is a term that they have used, and it's when I read it, I thought it's something that is going on. It is happening. So yeah, all these negative representations, of course, they do have negative also outcomes on people, on their everyday lives, and consequently, I think that people sometimes are being discriminated against not only because of Islam, not only because of religion, but sometimes because of the language you speak, because of your proper name, like your name and your appearance, your attire, I mean, clothes and skin color and so on, and your geographical origins. Sometimes people, they ask you like, where are you from? And you go like, yeah, I am Dutch. And then they go like, yeah, but where are you from? So you look Dutch, so where are you really from? And yeah, sometimes sometimes you have to tell people like, yeah, you want like my ADN, you wanted to. So yeah, sometimes it's not easy to deal with all these with these questions. But anyway, as I said, having all these negative representations according to studies, and also before I move to schools and the job market, I would like also to add very quickly that Dutch-Moroccan people are also generally associated with delinquency and with also problematic behavior. Yeah, but yeah, to the extent that sometimes they are overrepresented in crime rates. I mean, but this is mainly among the second generation, according to studies and research. So let's start by school. Yeah. So if we speak about school here in the Netherlands and how researchers yeah, they come to certain conclusions, according to their studies. So children are represented and described as unsuccessful pupils, and of course these are research that vary according to years, but we have also recent studies that confirm this. So as I said, they are represented as successful pupils with lower educational levels regarding their efficiency and not efficiency, deficiency, I'm sorry, in Dutch and mathematics, and also the early school leaving, so they leave school early, so they don't continue their studies. Also, it emanates also from their parents' low educational level and of course, disadvantaged socioeconomic status. Adding to that, the structural inequalities that also impact, the children's future opportunities and educational opportunities in the future. So yeah, so all these questions making even families with underprivileged social, cultural, and economic resources, even the most vulnerable groups, according to Krull 2018. So he wrote an incredible article about the Dutch educational system, and he explained that really well. So, and also there is a recent study in 2021 by the Social and Cultural Planning Bureau, not Bureau, but Office, they found out that the segregation of schools, the school levels, because here they have this, as I said, they have vocational education and they have academic education. So they come to the conclusion that the segregation of the school levels, they result in having less contact with children from different backgrounds, right? So which even widens the gap between social groups in the Netherlands, right? So and of course, when you have these representations and these statistics within the educational system, you have also questions to put up later in the job market, how it is going to work, how it is going to function. This does not mean that all Dutch-Moroccan people are having these problems and all of them they are not integrated in the job market. But there have been studies that refers to the discrimination, how Dutch-Moroccan people are discriminated in the job market, and they came to the conclusion that it has to do with a perceived negative image about non-Western immigrants, so migrants. So again, non-Western. I think that this term in here in the Netherlands, they have mentioned that they have to stop using Western and non-Western immigrants, so that we just say immigrants, so that we don't make divisions again. So yeah, the first, I will speak, I'm sorry, I've stopped. So I was saying that it has to do with this perceived negative image. And the second point has to do also with their inability to easily integrate in the job market and competing with native peers, right? Because of their qualifications and proficiency and efficiency in the Dutch language, so their command of the Dutch language, of course. So yeah, so these are just this is just a study, some studies that refers to discrimination in the job market, and of course there are so many other studies that speak about this topic. So now we move on to the let's say the parenting discourse, right? And here, what do we mean by the parenting discourse? How, like, the image reflected on the upbringing values and the practices of Dutch-Moroccan parents. Okay, how do we speak about the role of parents, right? In research. So all the time referring to research. So the role of Dutch-Moroccan parents has been mainly associated with investigating topics that have to do with family values, with religious beliefs, with cultural practices, right? And how all these are associated to the parenting problems, right? How they are associated to the issues and the debates of integration, acculturation, and the identity debate. So how all both these things, you know? So we have these cultural and again religious values and practices, and how sometimes these practices have an impact on the integration of the children, you know, of the future generations. So, however, a few studies have focused on the socioeconomic conditions in connection with the parenting problems, because we just speak, I think, you know, and from what I read, and it was in, you know, written in English, so maybe I have missed something, that most studies, they speak about the parenting problems are related all the time to religion, to culture, right? So to gender issues and so on. So I think that more studies should be carried out, you know, to understand also the socio-economic dimension, okay, the perspective, which is also important in this case. So anyway, there are so many studies here that maybe we won't have time to explore all of them, but maybe I will just refer to some of them. So there are like some studies who came to the conclusion that children who they're more to liberal values, right? They have like less ties with their families, yeah. And children who have more like strong relationships with their families and parents, they are less integrated in society. So yeah, we have to think about. So when I read also this, I was thinking, yeah. So this is, we have also to reflect and think about that. What is going on? Why? So all these negative representations already. So do they have like a role, and how this is really working and functioning? So we have also another. I think it's that was Spark and Dehan, who they had it's like they have some studies in relation to also parenting discourses, etc. And they also have they have criticized. They have the courage to criticize that parents are being are being blamed, for being like deficient in their parenting, that they need education, that they need guidance, So, and this is not a good way of doing it. So we need like a more constructive discourse, Yeah, a discourse where we have to include these parents' voices and learn from them, right? Learn from their experiences, because they can teach us so many things. It's not only that we have to do it the Dutch way, for example, as they have mentioned in their studies. So um, yeah, so these are like the 3 points that we have that have been done about this subject, and maybe before going to discussion and maybe come to some conclusions. So maybe if you have any questions that we can just interact, me and you, and maybe Leo also, she's with us. That would be nice to reflect on these things. Okay.
I mean, absolutely. Thank you so much for this kind of like summary of all the research and the literature review that you've done, and it's absolutely fascinating, because I genuinely think that there's a lot of parallel between like the Dutch-Moroccan community and their integration or lack of integration and inclusion by the Dutch community and other migrant communities. And even there's parallel to the suffering of even like the Black community in the US, for example. There's a lot of parallels there. And it's absolutely fascinating that, yes, we are in the 21st century and we're still talking about segregation. And I want to start like from back to first. So one thing that was very interesting that you mentioned, that children or first generation, they feel that they cannot belong to two things at a time, or to both worlds at a time. And that's actually quite sad to me, because when you explore the idea of identity, people can be two things at a time. Like people can be Dutch and Moroccan, or 3 or 5 or 10 things. Identity is very later than there's, and I think that, and tell me what you think, of course, is that it has been portrayed either by the Dutch media and even the policy on a policy level, that these things they can't reconcile. But I also that's why like children feel that they need to either belong to one or the other, but they can't to both. And I want to ask your opinion as well about, like, do you think that actually like Dutch Moroccan families, obviously because of the long exclusion, do you think that they also portray the Dutch community as opposite to their own identity, or as opposite to their values? Because I'm Syrian, obviously, and we always have this kind of like clash between our identity and the Western identity, or the European identity. And it is also for us, it's difficult to reconcile the two. So
no, I understand what you mean.
What do you think about that? Do you think that children like literally like suffer from it, and whether there's a way to maybe combine or reconcile the two?
I mean, the issue of identity is a very complex. It's for me, it's really complex. Because people, they just should be like citizens of the world. Why do we have to put them into a box? Because of their ethnicity or religion or whatever. So I think that identity. I'm sorry. Identity is something that is, fluid. It's not something it's something that changes shapes and forms and style and etc. So identity is, and I really admire Mahmoud Darwish when he said, "الهوية إبداع صاحبها." So in Arabic, the identity is the innovation and the creation of the person who adopts this identity, right? So I think that identity, it should be it's not something that is inherited or given, or like given from the grandparents to the parents to the grandchildren and so on. So of course maybe part of it is given. I'm not saying there are values, there are some culture, there's a heritage, so many things that I agree. But life is also changing socially and politically and culturally and economically, and also our identities are also changing with it. So they are recreated, they are reconstructed, they are yeah, we just innovate with our identities. We were not this or that. There are people who just prefer to be this or that, which is fine. But I think that we cannot also, even like researchers and people like media in the media, etc. Um, all these terms that are used in language, because we have to teach also our children and our students how to read between the lines, and how to not take everything as it is, right, to be more critical. So I think that identity here in the Netherlands is also a very controversial subject, right? And I'm going to be honest, and I really cannot really answer the question about families, because this is what my project is about, is to speak about the families, with the families, I mean, include them in my research and learn from them to be able to speak about them. So, of course, if you take a child and at home, this is what some of the families, I had some discussions with them, and they told me that. At home you have a certain culture. Even children, they say, "Oh, at home we have a certain culture. You go to school, you have on the streets, and you have something else. In the public debate, there is something else." So yeah, for children it is confusing, and sometimes they have to come up with all kind of questions that sometimes parents are unable to answer. So it's not simple, it's not that simple, but I think that yeah, work, so many things that has to be done within families, in the schools, and also in the media, with workshops, and trying to raise awareness about this subject. And everything starts with the use of language. And so, as Mel said, with every word we utter, we have a choice. So we have a choice. When we say anything, we just need to stop, think, and before uttering anything, before saying anything, we have to think twice. And then, yeah. So um, I think, yeah. So this is this is my opinion, more or less, about identity. So
Yeah.
we have just to create and innovate our identities in every single day. So this is for me how it goes.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
I completely agree, and
yeah,
I also want to like highlight something that I mean, Malouf says obviously
yeah,
on identity. He's done
yeah,
an incredible work on that. Is that yeah, identity is an amalgamation of so many different layers, but
yeah,
when one side of it is being under attack, we kind of cling to it and we highlight it the most. And I think
yeah,
that's where the Dutch response, like the community, the local community's responsibility comes in, is that
yeah,
why are we putting migrants and their and parts of their identity under attack,
yeah. The pressure.
um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and under pressure,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, because we are here, we want to, as migrants, we want to be part of this community, and we try so hard to fit in, and when we don't, we might actually put extra effort to stand out,
Yeah, yeah,
maybe.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's kind of, it's for every action there's an opposite reaction, and that might be an actual
Mm.
reaction to the pressures that we actually feel.
Yeah,
And I love what you said about words, because absolutely, language and words form realities.
yeah,
They create the reality that we live in, and they're
exactly.
very, very, very important. They're not small things.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, they're not just words. They're a
yeah,
lot more than
no,
that.
yeah,
And I wanna ask, why do you think um, there's like so much focus on that the religious part of our
yeah.
identity, of the
Mm-hmm.
migrants' identity,
Yeah,
when nobody's talking about religion anymore?
yeah,
Nobody talks, nobody says this is I don't know, like a Christian,
yeah,
the country, or like a Christian European. And obviously Islam is very diverse also
yeah.
within it, and
Mm-hmm.
each country has its own shape and form of Islam, even each person and each family, and it's like it's a non-homogeneous
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
uh, kind of
Group.
like religion anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we still talking about this? Isn't it
Yeah,
a type of otherness that
yeah,
they're different, and we're Dutch. This is our nationality, and
mm-hmm.
we're kind of like proud of that. It's
Yeah.
a national culture, but
Mm-hmm.
they're like different. They belong to a religion, and that's completely different. Do you think that that's
So I think that, yeah, I think that this started even before September 11, what happens in September 11, much more before, when you started to ask people if who they are, or where they are coming from, or whatever, and then they started with their Muslim identity. They would just say, "I am Muslim," right? So this is, and then maybe they don't give much more importance to their national identity, right? So these are things that started also with the media uh, uh, trying to speak, to put this subject really big, right? So to as I said, if you are just every day speaking on the Muslims and the Muslim community and this and that, so you are you're pointing out the subject every day. And of course, the future generations and the generations that are rising, they will consider themselves through religion only. Their identity is religion, right? So it's the way people look at you, is the way that you look at yourself sometimes. So how the other, all these, let's say, the language used about the other and us and them, the other and the self, and all these the little things that sometimes, yeah, they just seem to be just language, but they are, forming all these labeling and classifying and division between people, right? So I think that this the fact of your question about Islam and why they are really speaking about the religion of Islam is something uh, much more complicated, let me say, than we thought. So it is something. So here in this context, maybe I don't want to be too honest to speak about these topics because they can ils fâchent, ce sont des sujets qui fâchent. But anyway, uh, uh, we can see works of Edward Said, we can see works of Noam Chomsky, and there are so many books that they write, and then you can read and learn so many things from what they say. Who is leading the world and what they want, how do they want to use things and ideologies and stuff. So yeah, I think it's as I said, it's the way people and the other speaks about you reflects the image, about the self, right? So yeah, so I hope I answered your question.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I don't know, like, what you think about, for example, do you think, because one more thing is that narrative, I think they created that narrative for us as migrants. We were never owners of our own narrative. And I think that's also very wrong and very dangerous that we have. It's not that we put ourselves in that box, we've been put in that box. They do that for us. And also like also going back to the language, because it's like fascinating for me as well, is that even when people want to get to know you, between air quotes, it's always based on that default. So are you not, how much are you in that, how much of you is in that box, how much of you is outside of that box? And but then that also, and also tell me what you think, because this is as a personal opinion, is that also dehumanizes you at the same time. So if people keep on asking you, how is it, do you wear the veil, do you do you like eat pork or drink alcohol, or these are not questions about me as a person. And you're not trying to get to know me as a person, as an individual identity. You're just trying to locate where I am on that box.
Put me in a box.
Exactly. Even if I'm out of it, it just means that your reference point is just that a stereotype or that idea of what I need to be, and whether I'm inside or outside of it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, people are curious and they want to know, and and sometimes it's not easy to live for newcomers, from wherever parts in the world when they come, and I mean from developed countries. So it's not easy to the other all the time looks at them from the lens of what is stated in the media, what is said, in the public debates, right? So, and what is going on in, all these incidents that are going on in the world. So, yeah, so they have already certain expectations, right? So they put you into maybe a certain level, and they expect you to do this or that. So it's, yeah, I understand what you mean about it. Yeah. So the language that is used, by the media to indicate that cultural and maybe religious differences are sometimes obstacles to integration. So this is what we are speaking about. Like, okay, so where the culture you came from, etc. So they are in general like hindering your integration in a European country or in a Western country. However, the nature of all these differences, and the way religion might affect or harm or hinder, the integration is not clear. How can you just tell me? Okay, do you think that all these differences do hinder the integration? So how does it work? Okay, give me like research or examples that so that we can understand. So and that is why I think that as a first step, using an inclusive language, right, is halfway to humanize, and engage, people who adhere to Islam, say, let's say Muslims and immigrants and refugees, even if I don't know, people who find, who are looking for refuge, people who are migrating, to other countries to look for a better life, right? So I think that using an inclusive language that let's say engage them in a discursive, and the socio-economic prospect of society. That's really important. And of course, in order to achieve this, uh, it's not easy to get to the big corporates, right? So, well, the media and all the stuff. So we can do research, we can do studies, and yeah, speak about these topics. But I think that we can also get into initiatives, right? And initiatives at home, for families, for schools, how kids how they have to be sensible about using language, with teacher also, so that they don't all the time expect them that, oh, they are this or that. So I think that starting with these little things, in schools, as I said, in education, and also within families, like paying attention to the words that we are using, right? From the part of the Dutch, or let's say European or Western people, but also from the part of the migrants in general, that also they have to use an inclusive language when speaking about the Western, the Westerners, let's say. And also the others, also they have to use an English, une langue, bienveillance, and that you don't really put the other into harmful or into difficult positions only because of the language that you're using, right? So so this is about, let's say, about the inclusive language, because this is some part of the discussion. If you want me to just continue with it, or if you have any questions, you can also if you have any questions, you go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that I love that you're talking about that as a shared responsibility. Like I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
wanted to highlight that
Okay.
it's not only the migrants job,
Yeah. Sure.
but it's also the local community, and it's definitely a shared responsibility, and I do think that it starts with identity, with trying to, it's like you said, trying to make it as fluid as possible, and especially with children, to make them realize that identity is something that's extremely fluid. I mean, I'm so excited for this. So yeah, I mean, we started with the inclusive language, and I think that's like maybe a part of the roadmap towards more inclusive society, is to start with inclusive language.
Yeah.
Please, please,
Yeah.
if you want to continue with like your recommendations, how can we get there? What is needed? Perhaps even like what can we do as individuals here and now today to actually start that journey? Please.
Sure. So as you said, so we can start with inclusive language, right? So to include, all kind of people, right? And also what I can speak when I've been speaking about schools, and like the educational system and the labor market. So what I can also, like, some of it's nothing new, but I think that the only thing that we can say that there is hope. I mean, for the next generations, for these generations that are growing and rising up, that there is hope. And please don't wait for others to do things for you. Just go ahead with your studies. Study well. Go to school. Finish your studies. Continue your studies till you have maybe academic tracks that allows you to have access to university and have access to also well-paid jobs, because this is also important, and maybe even get access to decision-making positions, because it's through this decision-making position that you can participate with laws and policies and give your perspective, which is the perspective of your people who are from your background, let's say. So I think that if we have people that are representing, people from migrant background, so it's also halfway. So we start with the language, but also with representation. People need to have. It's like when we speak about gender equality. So we need also women in making decision positions, right? So we need that to have more visibility, right? So that people can see, your point of view, getting your voice there. Okay, so. This has to do with, as I said, education and jobs. So of course, uh, for now, this all we can just work and be yourself and work hard, and you will get it. And as I said, get to well-paid jobs so that you can improve your socioeconomic status also. So this is important. The last point. About parents and the role of parents, of Dutch-Moroccan parents. So here also we need to have a more constructive discourse, right? So not only destructive discourses that say that parents, they need this, they need education, they need to be more, they need guidance, to be able to educate their kids. No, but let's give it a positive push, right? Just give it like be more constructive, right? And involve these parents' voices. We're going to learn a lot from them, their experiences too, so they can also have a positive impact on also on policies. Why not? So it's from their perspective that we can also learn, as I said. So let's include them, let's involve them in there are like so many training classes or courses, that I know some of them, like in stimulants, stichting stimulants, I think this is how they call it, that they are doing really a great job trying to have mothers and even fathers, and then they have all these courses with them, and the good thing about them is that you don't sit there to tell them what they have to do. No, you share with them, you learn from them, okay, and then you come up with conclusions and solutions, together, not just me telling you what you have to do or how you have to raise your kids. No, who I am to tell you how you have to raise your kids. It's just share, just more, as I said, involve people, and their voices are very important. And within all this, let's say these arguments, I think that differences in parenting approaches, right, should not be all the time attributed to culture and religion, etc. I think that they can be also explained from the educational level, from the education, let's say, achievements, and from the socioeconomic dimension also and perspective. So, and last but not least, I think that let's say we can interpret the integration debate again, integration, because this is the word I use. So yeah, whatever. We have to interpret this integrating debate not only from let's say only from this. No, I'm sorry. I wanted to say that we can interpret this integrating debate from a social class, right? From a socio-economic perspective, and not only from a mere Muslim question. So this is what I mean. So we cannot all the time point to culture and religion, and also these differences, they might have some. Also, they can have part of the problematic. I'm not saying that they don't, but just part of it, because the other one, which has to do with the socioeconomic, independence, how even like how these mothers and women be having their economic independence is very important. You give them a voice. They are these women are going to raise their children, the future generations. So we have to give them a voice. We have to include them, and yeah, so we should not just knock on the same door, right? So like Islam, religion, culture. So yeah, this is more or less what I wanted to the idea that I wanted to pass.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much, and I love that last idea that you said, that last thought. It might be about like the socioeconomic situation of the parents, of the family, that actually hinders the integration, even of first generation and subsequent generations, obviously. But that also goes back to the responsibility of the local community, whereby yes, you can. We can just like give up and say, oh, we don't understand Islam, or we don't understand the culture. We're just gonna even sometimes what happens is that funds go into perpetuating that stereotype, or perpetuating that idea of that, oh no, we don't understand Islam, or we don't understand the culture. Let's understand it more, even though it might not be even the problem. And that causes like a misallocation of funds to me, and a misallocation of the policies. So for example, a lot of efforts went into banning the hijab in some countries, and that's not actually the point. That's just a symptom of something that can be achieved in other ways, in a more profound way. So
sure. Let me here just add a point, is that I think that who cares if you're Muslim or if you have a different culture. So this is my point of view. If you work, if you are integrated economically and you have your own job and you pay your taxes. So this is the idea.
100%.
You work, you pay your taxes, then okay, you do whatever you want to pray, you want to fast, that's your problem. You want to do this or that, I have nothing to do with that. Okay, so so this is the idea that I wanted to transfer today. And also we want also more studies that can demonstrate the change, because there is change. It is a slow change, but I can see that there are so many people who achieve so many things, who are from migrant background and who are successful also. So we want studies that can, because I've heard some opinions about that. They say, yeah, this is the image about us, but we are working, we are paying our taxes, we are doing this and that. So we need also to transfer and to transmit, I mean, this image of change, because it's also important for these people and for all, I mean, for the whole country, right? So, and maybe get people together, those who have succeeded, because they can share, their experiences and their narratives and their stories with others, and then the others can also learn from them, right? So, yeah.
100%. I absolutely love that note that where you ended up, whereby, so firstly, we need to be just citizens of this community. We need to contribute to this community, and we just happen to be like someone is a human being, or she is a worker. She just happens to be from that country, or she just happens to be a Muslim. It doesn't have to be the core of our identity and every action that we take 100%. And another thing is that, and I love that we do need to take ownership of our own narrative. There are structural barriers to that, because even with that, there is a specific narrative that it's like when you do an interview, you're being asked specific questions, like a yes or no questions. And it's very rare that we get to actually, tell our stories in a non-guided way that serves that already existing narrative. So we do need to be heard, to take charge of our own narrative, and to empower and support each other even in that narrative. So I mean, hopefully we're trying to do that, but we have a long way to go still, because of a lot of like economical, structural, political barriers, even cultural. By the way, absolutely. There are barriers, but we're trying to take charge and be owners of our own narrative, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. And I love what you said. It is about research, because like subjective ideas and opinions, and unfortunately they are heard, even though they're subjective, and it might be at times counterproductive. So research is definitely necessary. And we just want to thank you so much for the research that you're doing. I mean, I've read one article, and the second one, I think you're going to be
published soon, I hope. Where
are you publishing your articles? Just to kind
of. The first one was published in the Journal of Muslims in Europe. So So as a last word, maybe I would just going to say something here about the Dutch context, is that the Netherlands is a prosperous country with a lot of opportunities. So for the future generation, for the children who are raising up and growing up in this country, I mean, just grasp your opportunity yourself. So it is possible. And and as they say, heal success. So so thank you, Razan, for today's the talk, and I hope we'll have many more in the future.
Yes, I hope so. We will definitely. I mean,
we can come up with ideas and initiatives and workshops and. Okay, so many thanks.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Habiba. I really enjoyed this. I hope everybody did as well. And we'll be looking out for your articles. And please do have a great day and a great weekend.
Thank you, Razan. Have a good day. Bye. Bye.